Man jumps fence to reach kid not knowing he's on camera. The day had started well for her family. After a heavy breakfast, her husband took everyone for a brief tour of their neighborhood before they all converged at the pool for a swim. Her son had never been in a pool before. The idea of being in the water like a fish made his day. But it would end in one of the most horrific incidents she'd ever seen. When Liza and Henry O'Shea decided to take a week-long vacation in sunny California, they only wanted a change of environment from their home state of Alaska. The couple had been married for years, with two of the most beautiful kids a parent could ask for. Both experienced dentists, they'd worked hard for months without any downtime. As they saw it, a vacation was long overdue. They had no idea the kinds of horror waiting for them down south. Liza and Henry met while they were still in college, falling in love instantly. For Liza, she'd found someone who not only shared most of her interests, but constantly pushed her to be her best self. It was no surprise that she yelled yes when Henry asked her for her hand in marriage 6 years later. Their union would bless them with Diana and Chris, the apple of their eye. Diana and Chris were 8 years apart. Although Diana was born a healthy, active baby girl, her little brother would be born on the spectrum. When Liza and Henry had Diana, they thought she tested everything they knew about early parenthood. But with little Chris, the dial was turned up to 100. Although his parents didn't want to treat him differently, they always found themselves doing so. Liza and Henry had always dreamt of being parents. When they had their fast daughter, they gave their all to ensure she would never lack a thing. Like many young parents, they were convinced they'd figured out everything about parenthood. They were thrilled to learn they were having another child. But Chris would teach them the true meaning of parenthood. Liza and Henry discovered that raising a kid on the spectrum demanded a level of consistency, sensitivity, and attention that they'd never possessed before. But they quickly adapted to all their son's requirements, soon understanding everything he needed. Family life for them wasn't as simple as they thought it would be. But they wouldn't have it any other way. Chris was a perfect, energetic little boy with a curiosity his parents had never encountered. They'd do right by him. 3 years had passed after Liza and Henry had Chris, and as far as they were concerned, their life was great. The parents had been working hard while the kids were making them proud in school. Seeing that they all needed a break from their busy lives, Henry decided to fly them down to California to a beautiful bed and breakfast where they'd spend a week. It wouldn't be long before trouble came knocking. Henry had always heard stories of people kidnapping kids. He'd always prayed that his children would never meet such a fate. But what would happen in California would show him that no kid was genuinely safe. His family checked into the bed and breakfast as soon as they landed in California. The house was a beautiful gated bungalow that connected to a communal pool. It's there that the incident would take place. The day had started well for Henry's family. After a heavy breakfast, he took everyone for a brief tour of their neighborhood before they all converged at the pool for a swim. Chris had never been in a swimming pool before, and the idea of being in the water like a fish made his day, shared Liza as she talked to a local reporter. She had no idea what nightmares the day had in store for her. After the quick swim, the family returned to their house for lunch. But as they were eating, Diana, Chris's big sister, excused herself, saying she wanted to play in the sun. The bed and breakfast was in a safe neighborhood, said Liza, stating she had no problem with Diana going out of the house without them. She even took her little brother, which made our hearts melt. But the happiness wouldn't last long. Liza and Henry sat back on the couch to enjoy each other's company while their kids played outside. But a sharp shriek pierced the air before Diana came racing in. Liza was already on her feet even before Diana was in sight. She dashed out of the living room, leaving a stumped Henry behind. What she'd find outside the house would shrivel her insides. Liza found her son, soaked in water, lying beside the pool. He was wearing nothing but his swimming costume. But that wasn't the worst thing before Liza. Chris was unconscious, and above him, a towering man also soaked in water. His fingers were interlocked above the boy's chest, his eyes wide with terror as he begged Chris to wake up. Liza froze. "Come on, son," the man begged, performing CPR as best as possible. His gaze inched up, registering Liza, but he didn't break his flow. Pushing air into Chris's mouth and pumping his chest, he worked until the little boy came to. Henry had arrived, helping the man. He didn't know what was happening and was too alarmed to ask. But the house's cameras would soon reveal the truth. Henry had arrived, helping the man. He didn't know what was happening and was too alarmed to ask. But the house's cameras would soon reveal the truth. The cameras also showed Diana rushing away to call Liza and Henry. It was then that the stranger who'd helped Chris jumped over the compound's fence and into the water to save the drowning boy. "I was walking by and saw him run into the pool," shared the man. "I have a son his age. He's just as active. I don't know what I'd do if something terrible happened to him." Liza and Henry thanked the man for all he did, with the city recognizing his heroic deed through a certificate. It is good to know there are some genuinely good people out there.